Ladies and gentlemen, one day in the village, I bumped into an old man. An old man aged about 80 or thereabout. He had a problem with his ears. He could not hear anything until you shout at him. And he told me, I've had this problem for many years. I was born here, raised here, and I've grown old here in the village. But I've never had anybody or any specialist who came to my aid. And I'm growing old with this problem. My own cousin, she's a teacher, Madam Margaret Ndalo. She's a sister to renowned Bishop Boniface Adoyo. Developed hearing problems. And because she was capable of taking care of her medical bills and all that stuff, she sought assistance from a specialist in Nairobi. And she was fitted with hearing aids. Now she is okay, she does everything, she hears, and she can talk to you. So this is a problem that affects so many people, not just from a village, but across the country. And because of poverty levels, people living below $1 a day, they cannot afford to get treatment. Today, I'm privileged to host Dr. Richard Mwangi. Dr. Richard Mwangi is a consultant audiologist. And he's one man with a kind heart, and he's been helping people, with that kind of a problem. So today, I'm privileged to host him, and I just want to understand from him, what is this about hearing problems? There are a lot of people with this problem that they don't understand how it occurs. Dr. First, perhaps, definition of hearing.
Thank you, Philip, for hosting me. My name is Richard Mwangi. I'm a consultant audiologist. And in general, what is hearing? Hearing is the ability to perceive sound and to understand the sound. And that's how it makes meaning to have meaningful connection, because when you talk to somebody who is hearing, well, they'll be able to respond to you, and they'll be able to have a meaningful conversation. Now, when we talk about the hearing impairment, this is where that you have a degree of hearing impairment. This means it can be mild hearing impairment, it can be moderate hearing impairment, it can be moderately severe or profound hearing impairment. Now, the definition of hearing impairment with the degrees makes us understand what is being deaf. And being deaf is when you find that somebody is profoundly, the hearing level is profound. That means it is above 100 dBs, and this person cannot hear any sound even with the help of a hearing aid. So what happens is that they can feel, or what some people would call hearing, is that they perceive the sound of a low-flying plane. They can hear the sound of a motorcycle through the vibration of the sound. Now, in the hearing healthcare, what we try most is that to make life meaningful for the people who have suffered in this disability. Hearing impairment is one of the less talked subjects, because the disability itself is so hiding. You cannot point out and say this person has a hearing impairment. If at all you've not talked to them, if you've not interacted with them, if the person just sits down there, you never know whether they can hear you or they cannot be able to hear you. So it is one of the less talked disability. One is because it's so hidden. Two, the stigmatization that goes with the hearing impairment. But now, people, the awareness is there. People are learning more and more. Parents with children who have got hearing impairment, seeking help more and more. I mean, we are happy the way it is moving forward, the awareness, the way it's moving on, but much need to be done. So in our part, we are helping in looking for these less fortunate people who cannot be able to have these hearing devices, who cannot be able to purchase, because one thing is that they are costly. Two, the assessment also can take a bit of time before the diagnosis, final diagnosis is taken. And three is that, you see, we are not as many as we would expect to cover 47 million of Kenyans in this country. So we are appealing for those people who've got hearing impairment. The government also is doing its part. It's, you know, through the registration of National Council of Persons with Disability, to register them, and they can get some of these hearing devices through them.
Daktari, you've talked about there's a population of people in this country who can't hear completely, they're deaf. Now, you know, there are these two terminologies, deaf and dumb. Try to simplify to the viewer. Who is a deaf and who is a dumb person?
Now, this is what happens. If you've never had something, you never talk. So that means you are deaf, you never had something, you've not been hearing, and then you're dumb because you cannot talk. But now there's something we call prelingual hearing impairment and postlingual hearing impairment. Now, prelingual means that this person was born with hearing impairment. So if nothing was done, if you know, the test was not done, diagnosed with hearing impairment, be it moderate, moderately severe, or even profound, so that the intervention can be this will have what we call prelingual hearing loss, and then this person will not be able to speak because the ability to it's not there yet. If the intervention was done when they were young, they could have learned is how to talk and how to explain themselves. Coming post-lingual, this is the hearing impairment that happens, loses the capability of hearing after developing speech. Now, let's say you get the hearing impairment at later age because of some, you know, something happened. Let's say you had an accident, it's damaged, it did a complete damage for your hearing impairment. You have got treatment of some medication like quinine. People it damage the hearing impairment completely, 100%. Others it doesn't. Others it does, you know, mild hearing impairment. So those people who develop hearing impairment after develop speech, that's what's called postlingual. Now this person can talk, but you'll find that they've got difficulties in understanding what you're telling them. So they are not deaf and dumb. They've got hearing impairment, but they can talk. But this child who was born with a hearing impairment, we'll call congenital hearing impairment, nothing was done, no intervention that was done. You may find they cannot hear, so they will not talk in a word because they have not learned it either. Yeah.
Now, statistically speaking, as a specialist in audiology, what would you say is the population of persons with hearing impairment in the country so far, if you have any statistics?
Statistic for hearing impairment, remember as I started, I said it is less talk disability. So we are correcting the data now that we are talking more about the hearing impairment. We are trying to see how much in certain population we are having hearing impairment. So you'll find that in a certain population, in the West world, they'll say 1 out of 8 will have a hearing impairment, because this has been done, this has been documented. Now, why they have done it is that, one is that in the West countries is that they have what we call newborn hearing screening, okay? So they'll have to test the child before the mother is discharged, immediately after birth. So how does it work? Newborn hearing screening, which helps in getting the numbers from the time the child is born or during the birth, And the numbers, they are doing it, the government hospital and the private hospitals there. So what happens is that they'll collect the data. They say this was a congenital hearing impairment, and we have to look for intervention made by when the child is 6 months old. Okay, and there's the follow-up how the child is moving on with the the hearing healthcare, with the speech development. So this is done immediately after birth, so even before the mother is discharged. And if the child fails, because some will fail because of some few things, maybe there was noise in the room, maybe the child was not cooperating as such, crying, or even there's a little bit of fluid in the middle ear, the test can fail. So what will happen is that the test will be repeated after 3 months. Now, if the child passes, most children will pass the test, and then you find that's good to go. The hearing is good, and then you let the child develop the speech as normal. Now, if the child fails, at 6 months you do the testing, diagnostic testing, you screen again, and you do diagnostic testing, and then from there you look for the intervention, be it the cochlear implant or be it the hearing aids. Most what is advised is that to start the hearing aid so that the child can be able to perceive some sound, and you see whether there is development of speech. But after doing a diagnostic test, you'll have seen the levels of the hearing impairment, and then you'll be able to understand if the hearing aid is fitted at this level, amplified at this level, programmed at this level, the child will be able to hear the sound and be able to develop speech like any other person.
Now, back to this little girl that traveled all the way from Lugari to come and visit you for treatment.
Yeah.
What would you say was the problem with the girl, and how have you sorted out the problem?
Thanks to you for bringing all the way from Lugari and sponsoring the child to us for the hearing aids. And of course, now the child will have a meaningful life and be able to participate and also compete with others academically and live a normal life in terms of the hearing. Now, as I said, there's different levels of hearing impairment. This child, according to the diagnosis and the age, is that we might be accurate to say that there was mild to moderate hearing impairment that the child was born with. Okay? Now, what happens is that the child will develop some few words, but then you'll find that the pronunciation of some words, like school, you'll find the SCH, it's missing, and this child is pronouncing it as cool. That's the kind of a person of this child, this hearing impairment makes them. They hear at that level. Okay, so the pronunciation of some consonants, school, they'll not be able to say school. They'll say it's cool. The SCH, goes. Yeah. So what we're doing is that we started by assessing the levels of the hearing impairment. You find one ear is better than the other. The right ear, the left ear is better than the right ear. So what we do is that we give the child the hearing aids so that on what we call an evaluation purposes. Okay, can the child hear after doing the test? Yes, they can hear. So from that, we pick and select the hearing aid as needed for this level of the hearing impairment. And then when you do the fitting, you find that the child is enjoying the sound and can be able to converse. And of course, the first thing they do is that they smile because the world has opened up for them. Yeah, so that's what we are doing.
Is the government partnering with you people in this field to provide hearing aids to these patients?
The government has been doing so well lately, because one is that there's provision of hearing aid through National Council of Persons with Disability. Okay, now that's a government institution. Two is that civil servants, they can enjoy the service of the insurances, which is paid 100% by the government through NHF. So that's also a government institution. So you find that lately, you can't compare with some years back when, the disability, nobody talked about it. So far so good, but I'll still urge the government, they can still do more by creating awareness so that this disability, this silent disability, so to call it that way, can be addressed. And then the children who are born with hearing impairment, what we call congenital hearing impairment, can be able to benefit at an early stage. When the problem is diagnosed at early stage, they will be able to live normal, hear normal, develop normal, and compete with their peers in the same level of academic, economic, and also even political.
Thank you, Dr. Richard Mwangi. Thank you very much for what you're doing, and it was a pleasure hosting you on this show. You know, Daktari is based at what are they called? The Fifth Avenue Office Suites. Fifth Avenue Office Suites. The building is directly opposite the traffic headquarters, Nairobi area. Formerly Nairobi area is now the Nairobi traffic headquarters, next to Kenyatta National Hospital. And he is on the 5th floor, room number 10. If you have anybody with this problem, I would suggest you bring that person here and they will be attended to and everyone will be happy. Asante sana daktari. Thank you for having me.
Mtu akianza kusikia aende shule ya kawaida. Sawa. Sababu at least hata bila hizo hearing aid beleni alikuwa anaongea. Na Milan the difficulties zenye alikuwa nazo. Sasa ile kitu cha muhimu ni ati akiendelea kuzoea kuvaa hearing aid, ongeeni na yeye. Sawa. Hata funikeni mdomo. Sawa. Sababu wakati mwingine mtu mwenye asikii anaangalia lips, hivyo ndio alikuwa anafanya. Sasa ndio azoee kusikia, asifanye kitu inaitwa lip reading. Wacha hata mkiwa na mask ongeeni naye. Sawa. Sababu sioni mambo ya kuvaa mask kubadilika hivi karibuni. Sawa. Haya, sawa. Mimi na Shovel. Uko sawa? Sinipatie high five basi.
Simama ugote daktari.
Simama.
Haya.
Utakuwa vizuri, utagrow, utakuwa mtu mzima, utafanya kazi, si ndio?
Usiogope kuongea sasa.
Shavel, utaongea si ndio? Alafu utaenda shule vizuri si ndio? Alafu kuongezea nitamshukuru Bwana Etale. Sababu unajua si rahisi. Nimejaribu hata na jamii, nimejaribu na familia. Mtu anakuambia tutafanya hivi, lakini mwenye kiatu kinafinya wewe ndio unajua unafinyika wapi. Sasa wakati nimeingiana na yeye, akanionyesha mahali hapa, wacha Mungu amfungulie njia zake. Matumaini yake yote Mungu ayaone. Matarajio yake yote Mungu ayafungue. Ni hayo tu namuombea.
Na mimi pia nashukuru daktari rafiki yangu ambaye amejitolea pia kuja kusaidia Shavel. Manake anajua she has a bright future. Akaona mbona asisaidie mtoto kama huyu. Daktari, God bless you.
Amina.
Uongezeke na tunakaribisha Lugari. Ukuje Lugari ushughulikie wengine wengi walio na shida kama hii.
Ukikuja mimi ni jirani yake.
Utakula ingoho kwake.
Sawa.
Nasikia iko sawa sana
iko
na ile ya kuachiliwa kwa shamba.
Alafu inapikwa na ile kitu inaitwa mshele.
Mshele.
Utajua mshele ukikuja. Thank you very much Dr.
Asante.
God bless you. Mtoto ako sawa. Gota. Thank you.